Hey, what's up guys? So time for some Spectre testing with the Uniden R7. Now for this test I had not one but two different Spectres and four different Uniden R7s. Now you guys have been asking me for quite a while now to do some Spectre testing, but I've been intentionally holding off to make sure that I can get a bunch of equipment, and I'm really glad that I did because there were a lot of things about this test and the results that really surprised me. There's a lot of stuff that I noticed that I wasn't expecting. Now the Uniden R7 that I have, it is a beta unit, and Uniden has mentioned that they've made some changes to the detector to improve the stealth capabilities, and so three of you guys offered to send in your retail copies of your Uniden R7, so a big thanks to you guys. Now, from some of the testing that's been done in the past with the Uniden R3, some of you guys have reported different results than what I saw with my Spectre Elite. And it's for that reason that I brought in a second Spectre, a different model, the Spectre III, in addition to the Spectre Elite, to see if I see any differences. And it turns out I actually saw quite a bit of difference. Everything from variances between different copies of the R7, as well as different variances between the Spectres themselves. There were times in the testing where maybe one detector would be pretty much stealth, while the other one was pretty clearly detectable. That was very strange. And I saw different results here both with my beta and even different retail units. The results varied. I also saw differences depending on which Spectre unit I was running, and there were some differences. Let's take a quick look at these. Now here's a quick look at the older Spectre III. It's a little bit simpler in design, but it's actually a little bit more sensitive than the newer Spectre Elite. Here's the Spectre Elite. You'll notice a couple extra things that weren't available on the 3. There's things like a mute button right here. There's a new filtering switch, which is designed to filter out super leaky radar detectors really far away. They've added the mount, a little bit of adjustability to adjust the angle of the Spectre on the windshield. And so the two radar detectors look pretty similar, but they are a little bit different in terms of some of the bells and whistles. But one of the biggest changes is something that I learned pretty recently, and it's that evidently the newer Spectre Elites have actually been detuned a little bit in terms of sensitivity. You see, these things definitely do false. It doesn't pick up just radar detectors. Sometimes you will just get random blips when you're driving around. I'll see this on the road when I'm driving with them. And I also saw this a lot during testing. In fact, a lot of times it happened when I was kind of turning around to make another pass, and we were maybe turning in a driveway and passing somebody's house, and the Spectre would go off. In fact, this happened so often that we started joking that the whole neighborhood was full of RDF members that were running radar detectors in their house, and the Spectres were picking up your guys' radar detectors running at home. I think every house here is running radar detectors. Now, most of the time, the falsing wasn't a big deal, but we would actually see it from time to time when we're actually doing our test runs, which may lead to different results because it may seem like suddenly you get a crazy long-range detection, which I would see sometimes, but then other times it looked to be a false alert. So it was a little bit weird, but I do want to talk about that, and then I also just want to go ahead and show you guys the full runs as well. Just keep in mind that sometimes they're false alerts, but there's other times you'll see where it does look like they are legitimate longer range detections. And so the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's actually one of the changes that they made between the two detectors. With the newer Spectre Elite, they not only added the filter switch and the mute button and whatnot, but they also detuned the sensitivity a little bit to help kind of cut down on some of the false alerts that you would otherwise see. And so it looks like the Spectre III, the older one, is actually a little bit more sensitive, and I want to point that out. And I think that's also part of the reason why we've been seeing different results online depending on what unit's being used. And speaking of differences, I also want to quickly point out the gain knob here. You have the ability to adjust the sensitivity of the Spectre as you're driving around, so as you get closer you can start dialing it back to make it easier to find whatever car has a radar detector. Now in the manuals for both units, they recommend running with the gain knob running right around the 3 o'clock position here. And so I tested both standard sensitivity here at the 3 o'clock position as well as maximum sensitivity cranked all the way up. In testing, sometimes the two different sensitivity levels would give comparable results. Sometimes the maximum sensitivity level would give a longer range, but there were actually a couple times where we saw standard sensitivity, believe it or not, actually gave a longer alert distance, which was weird. But yeah, anyway, that's how we were running those. The Spectre itself was mounted up high by the rearview mirror, which is where police officers run them. And then the radar detectors were also mounted up high by the rearview mirror, which is where you guys would typically be running them as well. The test course was a pretty long test course, about 2,500 feet total, with the car parked roughly around the middle, and it gave us plenty of range to run in both directions to test both front and rear sensitivity. It was a pretty rural area with horses running around nearby as we were testing and stuff, so it made for a pretty good test course. In any event, now that we've kind of established a baseline with different copies of the detectors and different Spectres and how we're going to be using them, let's go ahead and dive into all of the test results. There's going to be quite a bit of sample runs here that you'll see with all four detectors and both Spectres at different sensitivity levels and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and run through all of the different test videos, and at the end I'll kind of come back and give my analysis and thoughts about the different results in testing. So it could get a little bit of a blip there. No, even at max sensitivity, you just get a little bit of a detection.
Oh, when you're passing.
Yeah, and if you try to flip it around and follow them, you don't get any detection, so that's good. It's interesting.
It's a lot further.
Yeah.
That way.
Is it because we were going slower? I wonder why it kept picking it up even like that much longer. Try doing like a slower pass.
Okay.
Weird. I don't know. That was good. I'll try hitting this closer. Yeah, that was great.
No blip.
Wow, that was great. Wow, that one is really stealthy.
I just had the one blip
Yeah, and I
on standard, not even on max.
like, is it even still on? That's impressive. That was just like what we saw with
At the target.
the other retail unit, yeah. Be really close. Yeah, that's great. So we could just barely get something there.
Just before it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is sample 3. All right, for Spectre 3. Let's see, I'll just go forward. I'm gonna risk the ditch. But that one's going crazy. Wow. Let's see if it's different for normal passes. results so variable?
That one was a lot like the beta.
Yeah, that was like my beta unit.
It's okay coming from behind. This is the head-on.
Look at that. Nothing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I don't get it this way. That's the most I can get.
Wow.
It's like if I know he's there.
It's pretty stealthy.
Mm-hmm. Looks like just that little bitty blip. That's it. But if I'm like, what was that?
It'd be hard to get.
Yeah, that's effectively stealth. I mean, you can get that, but yeah. Unless you're looking for it, you're not going to see that. Okay, interesting. So that was sample number 2. There we go. We're getting something here.
Why do you get it going reverse and not when we're...
That's weird. It is because I'm going slower? So if I'm going super slow, I guess I can get something. But drive-bys and stuff is different. Okay, interesting. That one is pretty detectable, and you can tell, like, that car had something. Yeah.
It'd be detectable.
Yeah. Not stealth. So as you can see, looking at the results, things varied a lot more than you would think. They definitely varied more than I would think they would. There were times when maybe one copy of a detector would be very detectable, and it was pretty obvious you're running a radar detector, whereas another exactly the same radar detector, just another copy of it, could be effectively stealth. Things would vary from either being totally stealth to maybe detectable 100 feet away. There were 1 or 2 runs where we saw detections that looked like maybe several hundred feet away, depending on what Spectre you were using, what settings you were running, and what radar detector you happened to be using. And it's for this reason that I know Uniden advertises that the R7 is stealth to the Spectre Elite, which can be true depending on what version that you're running, but I'm not finding that to be the case consistently. It really depends on what detector you're running. Now, I was trying to figure out what is it with these detectors? Why am I getting such different results from one detector to another? I know Uniden mentioned that the older ones were a little bit more detectable, and the newer ones, they've changed something to improve the stealth characteristics. Now, taking a look at the 4 different detectors, my beta has a serial number in like the double digits. Sample number 3, which was also very detectable, had a lower serial number too. It was in the 500s. Now, R7 sample 1 and 2, those had higher serial number versions. One was about 1800 and another one was in the 4000s. And based on this, I was like, hey, it looks like there really is something to this whole, change that Uniden has made. However, I saw a bunch of weird variances with some of the other Uniden detectors that I ran. You see, in addition to the R7s that I tested, I also tested 5 different copies of R1s and R3s. 3 different R3s and 2 different R1s. With the R3s and R1s, I also saw a variety of different results. I tested a DFR6 and a DFR7, and I saw differences with those 2 detectors, even though they're fundamentally the same thing, just with a few extra bells and whistles wrapped around the DFR9. And so with these Uniden detectors, I'm definitely seeing variances between different copies of the detectors. It's very weird. I'm not sure why this is, but I'm not seeing consistency between different copies. And it's for this reason that I'm really glad that for this particular test, I was able to test so many different copies of the detectors. It's kind of tough, of course, to get a lot of detectors in at the same time. Spectre testing, it's hard to get a Spectre, let alone multiple Spectres. It would be awesome to get a bunch of Spectres and a bunch of radar detectors, but realistically, it's kind of tough to actually do that. And it also makes me wonder things like, are these 2 Spectres that I was using, are they representative of the other Spectre Elites, of the other Spectre IIIs? What about Spectre IVs? You know, it's so tough to get these things that we don't have a ton of good data on that, but I'm hoping that that's the case. But one of the nice things is there's other people like you guys who are stepping up to do your testing and share your results and post videos and post on the forums, so that we're all working together here, whether it's sending in copies of detectors or getting copies of Spectres and doing your own testing and posting the results. This really is a collaborative effort, and I'm really grateful to you guys who are doing your own testing, as well as to everybody who helped me actually do this testing here as well. So as for these R7s, I would not say that they're completely stealth. They can be in certain scenarios, depending on what Spectre you're going against and what copy of the detector that you have. I still haven't found a good way to determine what is stealth and what's not, so it's still kind of a toss-up. I would like to see Uniden actually do a little bit more to make these consistently stealth. I also ran the Valentine 1 and the Max 360C, and both of those detectors were much more detectable than even the R7 was, and I'm going to post those as separate videos. But when it comes to the aero detectors, so Max 360 V1, R7, all that kind of stuff, the R7 is going to be the stealthiest windshield mount aero detector, but even it I would not call completely stealth. Now for our testing, we spent about 3 to 3.5 hours or so doing tons of test passes back and forth with all the different detectors and settings and Spectres and whatnot. The testing that we did was all with the car parked on the side of the road and doing test passes back and forth. We ran out of time to do all the other Spectre tests that I was curious to do. One thing that I think would be really cool to do is if you are parked in your car and then an officer comes up behind you at a red light or something like this, in that situation, I think even if he's passing you and he's not able to detect you, in this situation, he should be able to detect you. And so there's a lot more things that we could do, of course, that would be great to see tested. And so with this detector, it's not one that I think I would be really comfortable running if you really need a detector to be completely stealth. This, I'm not going to say, is truly a stealth detector. So yeah, there you go. There's the results, and there's the videos of all the test runs and everything that I saw when I was out doing my own testing. Again, a big thank you to everybody who's out doing testing and who is volunteering to send out equipment. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I'm really glad that you guys are stepping up and testing as well. So awesome. There you go. The next coming videos are going to be testing out all the different R1s and R7s. Again, I saw some variability with those. DFR7 and DFR9 with both Spectres, and I'm also going to be posting V1 and Max 360C before getting back to our regularly scheduled videos of setup guides and radar detector and laser testing and whatnot. But anyway, again, thanks so much. I hope this has been helpful for you guys to get a bunch of information and get it all together in one place and make it available to you guys. So hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.